doing the vacuum, and right now I'm only cleaning out my refrigerant supply line going to my refrigerant tank. It's off right here. I'm drawing a vacuum straight through the manifold down the vacuum hose here, and you see we're at 36 microns. I have the high and the low side because I'm going to get ready to charge this with refrigerant. So now I'm going to shut off, close the path to my refrigerant line because I know that is clean and dry. I know the weight of this is 170 grams, so I know, and it went to 0, so I know my scale is reading correctly. You always want to do that. And yes, I know my thing is broken. And it's been a year and a half, and I still haven't replaced the caps, the valves, and I have a whole bag of them, but they need to be modified a little bit because they weren't the original. These are plastic, and I got aluminum ones. And a year and a half later, they're still sitting in the bag and they're not on my tanks. This tank is from 1992 or 1994, or is this 1996? Can't remember. It's an old tank. It's one of my originals. So we have refrigerant up to this valve. And let me, I have the vacuum on. Let's open up the high side. There, we opened up the high side. We jumped back up because this was all the way down to 390 grams. And now that I performed this procedure and the high side was off and the low side was off, that gave a chance for moisture and refrigerant gases stuck into oil to outgas, and it raised the vacuum a little bit up to 800 some microns. And we're coming back down. But because this is like video number 5, and this system was never open to the atmosphere except for the day that this extension was put on and the rear evaporator and all that, they did it that day. This is a 2015 Transit. I think it was 2015. And they said this is the first time, 17, 15, 17? Let's get the year. Let me get this right. Transit. It was redone. It's a 2017. This vehicle was altered. Yeah, 2017. Let's focus there. Come on, focus. Oh, I have a new phone call. I ordered the iPhone 13 Pro Max with 1 terabyte of memory, so I shouldn't have this problem of constantly filling the memory up on my phone every 3 months from taking videos for YouTube. And okay, we're down to 500 grams. So we are going to charge this with 1,190 grams. Let's get our scale over here. Let's zero it out. We are zeroed. And let's turn off the vacuum. So we'll close the vacuum, leave the high side open, and we'll get 1,190 grams. Vacuum closed. And we are pumping it up. Now I have a really hot van because while it was on the vacuum pump, the engine was running this all time. I had the fans on. I turned the heater on to heat the inside up and get the heater core hot, and then I turned it over to cooling to get that interior hot air over the evaporator in the rear, and then I had it sucking up the hot air, fresh air here, that's 115 degrees. And so all the lines, the compressor, the evaporators, everything is really hot in the system. Oh, we're getting there. 1,100, come on, get up there. We're getting there. 1,100, 1,190. Let's get there. I could tell the system is hot, but it's so nice. There, we'll stop right there. So 1,190 grams. Let's start this up. Let's close the high side on this. And we'll start it back up. I have it on recycle because I do not want to take in that 115 degree air through that outside fresh air vent, super loading up my system and giving me false readings. So let's see what we have. Do you remember video number 1? How many of you guys remember video number 1? So our total refrigerant requirement was 1,190 grams. I pulled out 500 and I think was it 50 grams from the recovery video, and we were 195 psi on the high side. wait a minute, doesn't more refrigerant mean the high side would be higher? Why is the high side lower? We have twice the amount of refrigerant in here than we did when we start. When I had half the amount of refrigerant, I had 195 psi. Now I have twice that much and I have 160 psi. Interesting. More refrigerant equals higher head pressure. Really? All the time? Think about it. Okay, I'm gonna let this stabilize for 5 or 10 minutes and let's come back to this. Oh, and this is the discharge line. Am I hooked up to the discharge? Yeah, I'm hooked up to the discharge line of the compressor. Remember before we were 175 degrees. Well, doesn't more refrigerant and more pressure, with a higher side pressure with more refrigerant, but I have more refrigerant in and my discharge pressure is 122 degrees. Interesting. Think about it. All right, I'll get back to you on the next video when this is sit for 10 or 15 minutes running, and we'll see how this thing goes.